May 17, 1944, Pas-de-Calais, France. Oberst Heinrich Müller dropped the intelligence report onto the wooden table with contempt. His iron cross gleamed in the afternoon light as he lit a cigarette and exhaled slowly. "Look at this," Müller said, tapping the document with one finger. "The Americans claim they have a shell that explodes near targets without contact." Major Klaus Hoffmann leaned forward, studying the report with interest. "British propaganda, clearly. No such technology exists." Hauptmann Ernst Weber, Chief of Technical Intelligence for the V-Weapons program, shifted uncomfortably. "Herr Oberst, our agents report unusual explosion patterns over the channel. Perhaps we should investigate further." But Müller waved him off. "Investigate what? Fairy tales? Our V-1 program has destroyed 23% of targeted areas in preliminary strikes. We launch at 70% accuracy. Our guidance systems achieve 40-kilometer precision." At Peenemünde, the V-1 achieved 94 successful launches from 100 attempts. At the test range in Poland, impact accuracy exceeded all projections by 32%. At the production facility in Nordhausen, workers assembled 400 units monthly. The mathematics were undeniable. German technological superiority would decide the war. What Müller didn't know, what none of them could have known as they reviewed deployment plans in that concrete bunker, was that American proximity fuses would destroy 352 V-1 flying bombs before they reached London within 6 months. The numbers would become catastrophic: 91% interception rate, 2,400 proximity-fused shells manufactured daily, 17,000 German casualties from failed V-weapon operations. The confident laughter in that bunker would become history's most expensive miscalculation, measured in the complete failure of Germany's vengeance weapon program. Oberst Heinrich Müller had commanded flak batteries since 1940. At Rotterdam, his units achieved a 7-to-1 kill ratio against Dutch aircraft. At Dunkirk, his batteries destroyed 42 Allied aircraft in 6 days. At the Battle of Britain, his command downed 97 RAF bombers and fighters. His decorations included the Iron Cross First Class, the German Cross in Gold, and personal commendation from Goering himself. He had studied every Allied weapon system, analyzed every tactical development, commanded over 4,000 men in combat operations. His technical expertise was beyond question. His confidence in German superiority was based on 4 years of victories. Hauptmann Ernst Weber had served in technical intelligence since 1941. His reports to OKW detailed Allied weapons development with disturbing accuracy. In January 1944, he documented unusual anti-aircraft performance over Britain. In March, he noted 23% increase in successful interceptions. In April, he reported unexplained aerial explosions occurring before projectile contact. His superiors dismissed each report. "The British are getting lucky," they said. "Random chance," they explained. "Statistical anomaly," they concluded. Weber documented everything, filed every report, recorded every pattern. His warnings filled 3 filing cabinets at Wehrmacht headquarters. Nobody read them. Lieutenant Franz Schneider piloted V-1 chase planes from Calais. His job was photographing launches, documenting trajectories, confirming impact success rates. In 2 months, he had observed 147 launches. He watched V-1s climb to 2,000 meters, level off, accelerate to 640 kilometers per hour, disappear toward England trailing fire. The mathematics seemed irrefutable. In February 1944, German flak batteries required an average of 3,400 rounds to destroy 1 Allied bomber. The Luftwaffe achieved a kill ratio of 1.3 to 1 in defensive operations. V-1 production reached 350 units monthly, with capacity increasing to 500 by summer. The V-2 program promised even greater destruction. At the Mittelwerk facility, concentration camp labor assembled rockets around the clock. Germany's technological edge would compensate for numerical disadvantages. Recent American failures reinforced this confidence. At Schweinfurt, American bombers suffered 26% losses. At Regensburg, 19% casualties. At the Ploesti oil fields, 34% losses. The USAAF lost more aircraft in single raids than Germany lost in entire months. American production meant nothing if American losses continued at these rates. Müller reviewed the deployment schedule with satisfaction. 500 V-1s operational by June 15th, 100 daily launches by July. The British civilian population will break, their government will negotiate, their alliance with America will fracture. Hoffmann nodded agreement. Their anti-aircraft defenses are obsolete, Our test data shows 82% of V-1s reach target areas. Weber tried once more. Herr Oberst, the intelligence suggests new defensive capabilities. Perhaps we should delay operations until we understand what we face. Mueller stood, ending the discussion. Hauptmann, we face demoralized British defenders with outdated equipment. We possess the world's first cruise missile. This conversation is concluded. The mathematics seemed irrefutable. German engineering had produced a weapon that flew faster than defending fighters could intercept, smaller than defending artillery could target, cheaper than defending resources could match. 500 V-1s cost less than one battleship. Production required minimal resources. Launches needed only simple ramps. The weapon was revolutionary, unstoppable, war-winning. Every calculation confirmed it. Every projection validated it. Every test proved it. The Americans and British had nothing that could stop the V-1 offensive. Washington, D.C., September 1942. Merle Tuve adjusted his laboratory goggles and examined the prototype radio tube. The Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory produced 47 experimental proximity fuses daily. Every 6 hours, another batch completed testing. The laboratory had expanded from 3 rooms to an entire building. Tuve supervised 427 scientists, engineers, and technicians working in shifts around the clock. In January 1942, America produced just 200 proximity fuses monthly, all experimental, none combat-ready. By June 1942, production reached 3,000 monthly, with reliability improving from 43% to 67%. By December 1942, the Eastman Kodak facility in Rochester was producing 12,000 fuses daily. This single facility was producing more proximity fuses than Germany's entire electronics industry produced radio components. Mary Catherine Morrison, previously a telephone switchboard operator in Baltimore, now operated precision assembly equipment producing miniature vacuum tubes for proximity fuses. Her station produced 240 vacuum tubes every 8-hour shift. Each tube measured smaller than her thumb, contained 17 separate components, required 43 assembly steps, operated reliably in 15G acceleration, functioned at temperatures from -40 to +80 degrees Celsius. She produced more functional vacuum tubes in one shift than Germany's Telefunken facility produced in 1 week. Morrison never saw the complete fuse, never knew the final application, never understood that her vacuum tubes would save thousands of Allied lives. She simply operated her equipment with precision learned in 3 weeks of training, maintained quality standards that exceeded pre-war commercial production, earned wages 70% higher than her previous employment. James Washington, from Detroit, Michigan, operated injection molding equipment that produced plastic fuse housings. His single station's daily output exceeded 600 units. Each housing weighed 47 grams, required precision tolerances of 0.01 millimeters, incorporated 3 separate component chambers, sealed against moisture and pressure changes, withstood launch forces exceeding 3,000 GS. His single station's daily output exceeded the entire production capacity of Germany's Bakelite manufacturing sector. Washington had worked at Ford's River Rouge plant before the war, assembling automobile dashboards. He now produced components for the most sophisticated electronics package ever deployed in combat. His station operated 23 hours daily, with 1 hour for maintenance. The equipment never stopped. Charles Wilson, $1-a-year man from General Electric, managed quality control across 17 production facilities. His background in commercial electronics revealed that American industry could apply mass production techniques to precision equipment that German craftsmen assembled individually. Wilson implemented statistical process control, identified production bottlenecks, coordinated between facilities, ensured component standardization. Under his management, proximity fuse production increased from 8,000 monthly in January 1943 to 74,000 monthly by December 1943. By June 1944, production exceeded 2,400 units daily. Americans discarded 300 pounds of copper wire scraps daily from fuse production. Germany allocated 40 pounds of copper wire monthly to each V-weapon production facility. The waste from single-shift operations at the Eastman Kodak facility exceeded Germany's monthly allocation for all electronics production. Workers threw away aluminum shavings that Germany rationed by the gram. A single day's rejected fuse housings, discarded because they failed tolerances by 0.02 millimeters, contained more precision-machined plastic than Germany's entire monthly Bakelite production for military applications. The cafeteria at the Eastman Kodak facility discarded more food daily than the Nordhausen concentration camp received monthly. Workers threw away lunch remains containing more calories than 500 slave laborers received in daily rations. Coffee grounds for morning break exceeded monthly coffee allocations for entire German army divisions. The butter wasted in a week could have supplied Germany's leadership compound for 6 months. Weber appeared at facility inspections in March 1944, his intelligence reports growing more urgent. American production capacity exceeds our projections by orders of magnitude. A single American factory produces more electronic components daily than our entire electronics industry produces monthly. We must reconsider our production strategies. His warnings went unread. The High Command focused on increasing V-weapon production, not analyzing American capabilities. The waste from testing proximity fuses exceeded Germany's total monthly ammunition allocation for the entire Western Front. In a single day of testing at the Aberdeen Proving Ground, American forces fired more artillery shells equipped with experimental fuses than Germany allocated for all flak batteries defending the Reich for 1 month. These test firings, intended only to validate production quality, consumed more explosives than Germany's monthly production of TNT. The casings from discarded test rounds contained more brass than Germany's total brass production for ammunition in 1 week. This waste exceeded Germany's entire capacity. June 13, 1944, English Channel, 3:47 hours. Lieutenant Franz Schneider was flying photo reconnaissance patrol when he observed the first V-1 launch toward England. His Bf-109 maintained station 500 meters behind and 300 meters above the flying bomb. At 3:47 hours and 12 seconds, the V-1 climbed to operational altitude. At 3:48 hours and 41 seconds, it leveled off at 2,100 meters, accelerating to 630 kilometers per hour. At 4:02 hours and 18 seconds, Schneider observed unusual explosions ahead of the V-1. At 4:02 hours and 33 seconds, the V-1 disintegrated. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 15 seconds. Kill time, 15 seconds. Schneider observed no British aircraft in the vicinity. He observed no tracer fire indicating anti-aircraft engagement. He observed no searchlight illumination. The V-1 simply flew into a cluster of explosions and ceased to exist. At 4:18 hours, a second V-1 launched. Schneider maintained observation position. At 4:32 hours and 6 seconds, explosions appeared around the V-1. At 4:32 hours and 14 seconds, the flying bomb exploded. Kill time, 8 seconds. At 4:47 hours, a third V-1 launched. At 5:01 hours and 37 seconds, it exploded mid-flight. Kill time, 12 seconds. At 5:23 hours, a fourth V-1 launched. At 5:37 hours and 9 seconds, it disintegrated. Kill time, 6 seconds. Total engagement duration observed, 2 hours, 16 minutes. V-1s destroyed, 4. British fighters observed, 0. Anti-aircraft fire observed, none that connected with targets. Kill ratio, 4 V-1s destroyed, 0 British aircraft lost, 0 observable British defensive actions. The ammunition expended in these engagements could not be calculated because Schneider observed no ammunition expenditure. The V-1 simply exploded in mid-flight. Schneider returned to base at 6:12 hours. He filed a detailed report describing 4 V-1 destructions with no observable cause. Mueller reviewed the report at morning briefing. Mechanical failures, he concluded. 4 launches, 4 malfunctions, unacceptable. The production facility will investigate quality control immediately. Hoffman agreed. Clearly defective pulse jets. The vibration probably fractured fuel lines. Weber read Schneider's report differently. He noted the consistent pattern. V-1s reaching specific altitudes and distances before destruction, explosions occurring without visible anti-aircraft fire, destructions happening within seconds of initial explosions. He prepared another intelligence assessment. It joined the others in filing cabinets at headquarters. Intelligence dismissed the reports as equipment malfunction. The V-1 program had experienced reliability issues during development. Pulse jet engines failed under sustained operation. Fuel systems leaked at high altitude. Guidance mechanisms lost calibration. 4 failures from 4 launches indicated production problems, not British defensive capabilities. Mueller ordered immediate investigation of the Nordhausen facility. Quality control would be tightened. Testing would be enhanced. Launches would continue. Weber reported to headquarters with detailed analysis. 4 V-1s destroyed in identical fashion suggests systematic defensive capability. British anti-aircraft has achieved unprecedented effectiveness. Explosions occur without visible tracer fire, suggesting new ammunition type. Destruction occurs at consistent altitude and range, suggesting new targeting systems. We should suspend operations until we understand what destroyed these 4 V-1s. The operations staff reviewed his report for 7 minutes. They filed it under low-priority intelligence assessments. American production statistics told a different story that German intelligence never compiled. American proximity fuse production, 74,000 monthly. German electronics production, 12,000 radio components monthly, 0 proximity fuses. A single American facility, the Eastman Kodak plant in Rochester, exceeded Germany's entire electronics production capacity. This single facility produced more sophisticated electronics in 1 day than Germany produced in 1 month. This single facility employed more workers than Germany's entire electronics industry. Failed tactics began immediately. Germany tried launching V-1s at lower altitude to avoid whatever was destroying them at 2,000 meters. The Americans adjusted anti-aircraft positioning. VS at 500 meters exploded. Elapsed time from first defensive fire to destruction, 9 seconds. They tried launching at night to exploit darkness. The Americans deployed radar-directed guns equipped with proximity fuses. V-1s exploded in darkness with same efficiency as daylight. Kill time, 11 seconds average. They attempted launching at higher altitude to exceed anti-aircraft ceiling. British fighters intercepted at 3,000 meters while American proximity-fused shells created destruction zones at 2,500 meters. Kill time, 13 seconds. They tried saturation launches, sending 12 V-1s simultaneously from multiple sites. Americans destroyed 11. Elapsed time from first launch to 11th destruction, 43 minutes. The 12th V-1 reached London and detonated. 1 success from 12 attempts, 8%. The ammunition expended by American forces in this engagement exceeded Germany's monthly artillery allocation for all flak batteries defending Berlin. June 28, 1944. English Channel, multiple locations. Schneider observed the largest coordinated V-1 launch to date. At 200 hours, 47 V-1s launched from sites along the Pas-de-Calais coast. He photographed launches from 3 different locations, documenting trajectories, recording times, maintaining observation distance. At 2:14 hours, the first V-1 exploded. Kill time, 14 seconds from first observed anti-aircraft fire. At 2:16 hours, 3 more exploded. Kill times 9, 11, and 7 seconds. At 2:19 hours, 6 more disintegrated. Average kill time, 8.3 seconds. By 2:47 hours, 41 V-1s had been destroyed. 6 reached London. Success rate, 12.7%. Kill ratio, 41-0. The ammunition expended exceeded Germany's monthly allocation for the entire V-weapon program. The fuel consumed in defensive operations exceeded Germany's weekly allocation for all Luftwaffe operations in the West. American anti-aircraft batteries fired proximity-fused shells at rates that consumed more explosives in 47 minutes than Germany produced in 1 week. The waste from this single engagement exceeded Germany's entire productive capacity. Recognition began slowly, reluctantly, inadequately. Weber presented final proof at command briefing on July 2, 1944. The pattern is unmistakable. 87% of V-1s are destroyed before reaching targets. British defensive capabilities have increased by 340% since January. American proximity fuse deployment accounts for interception rates exceeding all previous anti-aircraft effectiveness. We are not facing mechanical failures. We are facing technological superiority. Mueller still refused to believe. Impossible. Our intelligence indicates British munitions production is declining. Their resources are depleted. Their capacity is exceeded. 87% interception rate would require ammunition expenditure beyond British productive capacity. Weber placed production figures on the table. American production, Herr Oberst. Single American facility, 2,400 proximity fuses daily. British requirement for 87% interception. approximately 1,000 shells daily. American excess capacity, 1,400 units available for other applications, including Pacific theater operations, strategic bomber defense, and naval operations. Hoffman examined the figures with growing alarm. One American facility produces enough in one day to defend against all our V-1 launches, Weber nodded. One American facility. They operate 17 such facilities. Total American production capacity, approximately 40,000 proximity fuses daily. Our intelligence suggests they are stockpiling hundreds of thousands of units. Their excess production capacity exceeds our maximum effort by factors we cannot calculate accurately because the numbers are too large. Mueller stood, papers scattering. This is defeatist propaganda. I will not accept that one American factory produces more than the entire Reich's industrial capacity, Weber replied quietly. The mathematics were clear in January, Herr Oberst. They are undeniable now. We are not being defeated by better soldiers. We are being buried by better production. At the Eastman Kodak facility in Rochester, workers began their shift at 600 hours. By 800 hours, they had produced 480 proximity fuses. This single facility produced more in 2 hours than Germany's entire electronics industry produced in one day. The production line operated continuously, 23 hours daily, with 1 hour for equipment maintenance. Quality control rejected 17 units that morning for minor defects. These 17 rejected fuses contained more sophisticated electronics than Germany's most advanced radar systems. They were discarded, melted down, recycled, and replaced by 900 hours. Americans discarded rejected vacuum tubes that Germany would have considered technological breakthroughs. Workers threw away plastic housings that failed tolerance standards Germany couldn't measure. The aluminum shavings from morning production exceeded Germany's monthly allocation for all aircraft production. Copper wire waste from a single shift could have rewired every flak battery defending the Reich. The rejected components from one day's production, discarded because they failed quality standards, contained more precision-manufactured materials than Germany's entire monthly electronics output. The cafeteria at Eastman Kodak served breakfast to 840 workers. The food waste from that breakfast exceeded weekly rations for 5,000 Nordhausen camp prisoners. Coffee consumption in morning break exceeded monthly coffee allocations for 6 Wehrmacht divisions. The sugar used in coffee that morning equaled 3 months' sugar rations for a German city of 50,000 people. The butter discarded from uneaten toast could have supplied Germany's government district for 8 weeks. This waste exceeded Germany's entire capacity. Weber appeared at production meetings with increasingly desperate reports. American factories operate at capacity exceeding our maximum theoretical output. They waste more than we produce. Their rejected components exceed our successful production. We cannot compete. We cannot match their capacity. We cannot win a production war against this enemy. His reports documented American capability with precision that should have terrified command. Single American facility production, 2,400 units daily. 17 American facilities, total production approximately 40,000 daily. Monthly production, 1.2 million proximity fuses. German production, 0. The mathematics were catastrophic. July 15, 1944, English Channel. 63 V-1s faced coordinated American and British defenses. The engagement lasted 78 minutes. At 5:20 hours, 12 V-1s engaged first defensive line. At 5:22 hours, 10 destroyed. Kill time per V-1 approximately 18 seconds. At 5:35 hours, 15 more engaged second defensive line. At 5:38 hours, all 15 destroyed. 0 Allied losses. At 5:47 hours, 18 V-1s approached from different vectors. At 5:51 hours, 16 destroyed, 2 damaged and off course. At 6:04 hours, 18 V-1s in final wave. At 6:08 hours, 14 destroyed, 3 severely damaged, 1 reached target area. V-1s destroyed, 55. V-1s reaching targets, 1. Success rate, 1.5%. Kill ratio, 55-0. The ammunition expended exceeded Germany's monthly allocation for all defensive operations on the Eastern Front. The fuel consumed in this engagement exceeded Germany's weekly allocation for all motorized infantry divisions. American anti-aircraft batteries fired more shells in 78 minutes than Germany manufactured for all purposes in 2 days. At 5:27 hours, Oberst Heinrich Müller was inspecting launch sites near Calais when Allied fighters strafed the facility. His command vehicle took direct hits from 20 cannon fire. Elapsed time from first strafing run to death, 41 seconds. The mocker who had dismissed American technology as propaganda, who had laughed at intelligence warnings, who had commanded flak batteries with distinction for 4 years, died without understanding what had defeated him. He never learned about proximity fuses. He never understood that American production capacity exceeded German capacity by factors of 100 in some categories. He died believing Germany possessed technological superiority, that the V-1 program would succeed, that the mathematics favored the Reich. Weber surveyed the destroyed launch site at 1340 hours. He found Müller's body at 1347 hours. He recovered Müller's papers, including dismissive notes written on Weber's intelligence reports. Defeatist, unsubstantiated, low priority. Weber filed his final report that evening. German V-weapon program has achieved 1.5% effectiveness. American defensive systems destroy 98.5% of launches. Continued operations consume resources without strategic effect. Recommend immediate program termination. The recommendation was ignored. V-1 launches continued. Through July, 3,200 V-1s launched. 2,964 were destroyed before reaching targets. Success rate, 7.3%. Through August, 2,800 launched. 2,618 destroyed. Success rate, 6.5%. The mathematics became increasingly catastrophic. Germany consumed resources launching weapons that achieved minimal effect. American production consumed resources building defenses that achieved total dominance. Lieutenant Franz Schneider flew his last reconnaissance mission on August 3, 1944. He observed 16 V-1 launches from 400 to 600 hours. He watched American proximity-fused shells create destruction zones that no V-1 penetrated. He documented kill times averaging 9.4 seconds. He photographed explosions occurring with mechanical precision. He returned to base understanding that Germany's technological advantage had never existed, that American production capacity made technological advantage irrelevant, that the war was lost. Enemy quote from his report, filed August 3, 1944. This wasn't combat. This was systematic annihilation. The Americans didn't just stop our V-1 offensive. They made it irrelevant. Every launch wasted resources we couldn't replace. Every destruction proved our technological inferiority. Every failed mission demonstrated that we brought medieval tactics to industrial warfare. September 1944, Allied Interrogation Facility, England. Hauptmann Ernst Weber provided testimony to Allied intelligence officers. The interrogation lasted 6 hours. His testimony filled 93 pages. The portions addressing proximity fuses occupied 18 pages. We were not defeated by better soldiers, but by better factories. American production exceeded German capacity by factors we couldn't calculate. A single American factory produced more proximity fuses daily than Germany's entire electronics industry produced all components monthly. This single facility operated with waste exceeding our maximum capacity. They discarded rejected components in 1 hour that exceeded our daily production. They threw away more in quality control than we manufactured successfully. We brought craftsmen to fight assembly lines. We brought limited resources to fight unlimited capacity. We brought scarcity to fight abundance. Weber's testimony continued. The proximity fuse proved that technology without production capacity loses to production capacity with adequate technology. German engineers designed sophisticated weapons. American engineers designed sophisticated production systems. Our V-1 required skilled labor, precision materials, and complex assembly. Their proximity fuse required assembly line workers, standardized components, and mass production. Our weapon launched hundreds daily. Their weapon destroyed 90% of our launches. The mathematics were undeniable. Production defeated sophistication. Lieutenant Franz Schneider provided testimony in October 1944. His 37 pages of documented observations provided tactical intelligence and strategic assessment. I saw 300 V-1 launches from June through August. I watched 274 destroyed before reaching targets. The Americans didn't fight our V-1s individually. They created destruction zones. Their proximity fuses made precision unnecessary. They didn't need direct hits. They needed proximity. Their shells exploded near targets, creating shrapnel zones that destroyed anything within 30 meters. They revolutionized anti-aircraft warfare. Schneider continued, "They didn't just outproduce us, they revolutionized production itself. German factories required skilled craftsmen assembling components individually. American factories used semi-skilled workers operating automated equipment. Our production speed was limited by craftsman availability. Their production speed was limited by raw material delivery. We couldn't train craftsmen fast enough. They could train assembly line workers in 3 weeks. We faced skilled labor shortages. They faced no production constraints we could identify." Additional testimonies provided consistent themes. From a V-weapon production supervisor, "We brought swords to artillery warfare. Our production methods dated to the 19th century, theirs dated to the future. We assembled weapons individually. They manufactured weapons industrially. We celebrated producing 400 V-1s monthly. They produced 40,000 proximity fuses daily. The comparison wasn't close, it was humiliating." From a technical intelligence officer, "Their excess capacity exceeded our maximum effort. Germany operated factories at 110% of designed capacity, using slave labor, extending work hours, eliminating safety protocols, consuming irreplaceable resources. America operated factories at 70% of designed capacity, using voluntary labor, maintaining standard work hours, enforcing safety regulations, and still exceeded our production by factors of 100 in some categories. They could lose equipment, factories, and workers and replace them in weeks. We couldn't replace losses. The mathematics were inevitable." From a logistics officer, "They could lose 10,000 proximity fuses and replace them in 4 days. We couldn't lose 400 V-1s without 6 weeks of replacement time. They expended ammunition in single engagements that exceeded our monthly production. We rationed ammunition by individual shells. They fired shells by hundreds in minutes. The mathematics were absolute. Abundance buried scarcity." Weber's final testimony addressed production statistics with precision. American production, 1.2 million proximity fuses monthly by August 1944. German production, 0 proximity fuses, 12,000 radio components monthly, 400 V-1s monthly. Single American factory, 2,400 proximity fuses daily, more than Germany's entire electronics industry produced in any category monthly. Entire American production system, 17 facilities, 40,000 units daily, capacity increasing while Germany's capacity declined. Schneider's final statement, "The proximity fuse proved that free workers outproduce forced labor. American factory workers, voluntarily employed, adequately compensated, properly fed, working standard hours, exceeded production of German forced labor by factors of 10 in comparable categories. The Eastman Kodak facility in Rochester produced more with 800 workers in 1 shift than Nordhausen produced with 5,000 prisoners in 3 shifts. Democracy outproduced totalitarianism. Freedom defeated slavery. The mathematics were irrefutable." Additional production comparisons from testimony. American proximity fuse production August 1944, 1.2 million units. German V-1 production August 1944, 430 units. Single American factory monthly output, 74,000 proximity fuses. Entire German V-weapon program monthly output, 430 V-1s, 0 V-2s reaching production targets. American production per worker per day, 3 proximity fuses. German production per worker per day, 0.08 V-1s. American facility waste per day, 300 pounds material discarded. German facility waste per day, minimal all scrap recycled, workers punished for waste. The testimony concluded with strategic assessment. Weber, "Germany lost the production war in 1941 when we attacked the Soviet Union and America entered the war. We faced enemies with combined production capacity exceeding ours by factors of 20. We believed technological superiority and tactical excellence would compensate for numerical inferiority. We were wrong. The proximity fuse proved that adequate technology combined with unlimited production capacity defeats superior technology with limited production capacity. American factories buried German excellence under weight of numbers. The proximity fuse proved that democracy outproduces dictatorship. Free workers outproduced slaves. Democratic cooperation exceeded totalitarian command. Industrial abundance buried ideological superiority under avalanche of materiel. American factory workers, voluntarily employed, adequately compensated, properly housed and fed, working 40-hour weeks with safety regulations and union representation, exceeded production of concentration camp labor working 80-hour weeks under guard, malnourished, inadequately housed, facing death for insufficient productivity. The mathematics proved moral truth. Free peoples produce more than enslaved peoples. Democratic systems outperform totalitarian systems. Freedom defeats tyranny not just morally, but materially. The proximity fuse demonstrated that technological innovation requires industrial capacity. Germany produced excellent engineers who designed sophisticated weapons requiring sophisticated production. America produced adequate engineers who designed adequate weapons requiring simple production. German excellence required skilled craftsmen, precision equipment, extended timelines. American adequacy required assembly line workers, standardized equipment, minimal timelines. Germany's sophisticated production produced hundreds of weapons monthly. America's simple production produced tens of thousands of weapons monthly. Sophistication lost. Simplicity won. The mathematics favored mass production over precision production. May 17, 1944. Oberst Heinrich Müller had laughed at reports of American proximity fuses. Propaganda, he said. Impossible, he declared. Fairy tales, he concluded. September 15, 1944. Müller was dead, killed by the same Allied air superiority that his V-1 program was supposed to overcome. His V-weapon program achieved 7.3% effectiveness against proximity fuse defenses. His mockery became history's most comprehensive miscalculation, measured in 3,200 V-1s launched, 2,964 destroyed, consuming irreplaceable resources, achieving minimal strategic effect. March 1945, Flensburg, Germany. Hauptmann Ernst Weber sat in the ruins of Naval High Command headquarters reviewing final V-weapon program statistics. The building had no electricity. The files were incomplete. The records were scattered across 3 burned rooms. He worked by daylight filtering through shell holes in the concrete walls. His task was compiling final operational assessment for Admiral Dönitz. The numbers told a story that German command had refused to hear for 11 months. Total V-1 launches June 1944 through March 1945, 30,214. V-1s destroyed by Allied defenses, 27,193. V-1s reaching target areas, 3,021. Success rate, 10%. Kill ratio, 27,193 Allied defensive victories to 0 Allied defensive aircraft lost to V-1 counteraction. The ammunition expended by Allied forces in defensive operations exceeded Germany's total artillery production for the entire war. The proximity fuses alone, used in anti-V-1 operations, exceeded American production of all German munitions by weight. American proximity fuse production June 1944 through March 1945, 14 million units. German production of comparable technology, 0 units. Single American facility average daily production during this period, 2,600 units. Entire German electronics industry average daily production, 412 components of all types. This single American facility produced more sophisticated electronics in 1 day than Germany's entire industrial base produced in 3 days. The waste from 1 American facility in 1 month exceeded Germany's total electronics production for the entire war. Weber compiled resource consumption statistics. V-1 production consumed 8,200 tons of steel, 4,100 tons of aluminum, 12 million man-hours of forced labor, 2,300 tons of explosives, 1,400,000 liters of fuel in production and testing, 647 technicians and engineers, 432 skilled machinists. These resources produced weapons that achieved 10% effectiveness against defenses that cost America less to produce than Germany spent on V-1 guidance systems alone. Cost comparison from surviving records. Single V-1 production cost, 12,400 Reichsmarks in materials, labor, and facility overhead. Single proximity fuse production cost, $18 in American currency at 1944 exchange rates, approximately 72 Reichsmarks. Germany spent 172 times more per unit producing offensive weapons than America spent producing defensive weapons. The mathematics were devastating. Germany consumed irreplaceable resources, producing expensive weapons that cheap American fuses destroyed. Lieutenant Franz Schneider arrived at Weber's temporary office at 14:30 hours. He carried additional files recovered from Luftwaffe reconnaissance archives. His documentation covered 263 combat observation missions from June 1944 through February 1945. He had photographed 1,472 V-1 launches. He had documented 1,318 destructions. His success observation rate, 89.5% of launches he observed were destroyed before reaching targets. Schneider's tactical observations filled 47 pages. American proximity fuses created destruction zones 30 meters in diameter. Any V-1 entering these zones was destroyed. Kill time averaged 8.7 seconds from first proximity fuse detonation to V-1 destruction. American anti-aircraft batteries positioned along flight paths created overlapping destruction zones. V-1s flew through sequential destruction zones, each reducing survival probability. By the third defensive line, survival probability approached 0.3%. The mathematics of destruction zones impressed Schneider professionally, even as they depressed him strategically. American batteries fired proximity-fused shells in salvos of 6 to 12 rounds. Each salvo created destruction zone lasting 4.2 seconds. VS flying at 640 kilometers per hour, approximately 178 meters per second, traveled 747 meters during destruction zone duration. Batteries positioned every 800 meters created continuous destruction zones. VS could not fly through continuous destruction. The mathematics were absolute. Weber asked about defensive ammunition consumption. Schneider consulted his records. American batteries fired an average of 42 proximity-fused shells per V-1 destroyed. Total V-1s destroyed by anti-aircraft fire, approximately 23,000. Total proximity fuses expended in anti-V-1 operations, approximately 966,000 units. American production during same period, 14 million units. Anti-V-1 operations consumed 6.9% of American proximity fuse production. They had excess capacity of 13 million units for other operations. The waste implicit in these numbers staggered Weber. They produced 13 million proximity fuses beyond what they needed to destroy 90% of our V-1 offensive. This excess production exceeded our total electronics production for the entire war by factor of 32. They had so much excess capacity that destroying our V-weapon program was incidental to their primary production goals. We consumed all our resources producing weapons. They consumed 7% of one weapon type, destroying our weapons. March 24, 1945. American Proximity Fuse Production Facility, Rochester, New York. Mary Catherine Morrison completed her shift at 1600 hours. Her station had produced 287 vacuum tubes that day, 3 above quota. She had operated the same equipment for 32 months. She had produced approximately 214,000 vacuum tubes total. Her single station's production over 32 months exceeded Germany's entire vacuum tube production for all purposes over the same period. She earned $4.70 per hour, $56.40 per 12-hour shift, $395.80 weekly. Her wages exceeded a German skilled machinist's annual salary. Production at Eastman Kodak had increased every month since June 1944. Daily output now reached 3,100 proximity fuses. The facility operated at 87% of design capacity. Peak capacity was 3,560 units daily. The facility had never operated at peak capacity because demand never required it. American military operations consumed proximity fuses at rates below production capacity. Excess production accumulated in warehouses. By March 1945, stockpiles exceeded 2 million units. This stockpile alone exceeded Germany's total artillery shell production for the entire war. James Washington's injection molding station now produced 740 housings daily, 140 above June 1944 production rates. Equipment improvements and process optimization increased output without increasing labor. His station operated 23.5 hours daily. Maintenance time had decreased from 1 hour to 30 minutes through improved procedures. His 32-month production total exceeded 840,000 housings. This single station's output exceeded Germany's total production of comparable precision plastic components by factor of 67. The cafeteria waste that morning included 47 pounds of uneaten food, 12 pounds of coffee grounds, 8 pounds of discarded bread, and 4 pounds of butter waste. This single morning's waste exceeded weekly rations for 1,200 Nordhausen prisoners. The annual cafeteria waste from this single facility exceeded total food supplies for all German concentration camps in Poland. Workers threw away in 1 year what Germany starved prisoners to conserve. This waste exceeded Germany's entire capacity to feed forced labor. Charles Wilson reviewed production statistics for quarterly report to War Department. Proximity fuse production January through March 1945, 4,200,000 units. Deployment in European theater, 680,000 units. Deployment in Pacific theater, 1,100,000 units. Stockpile accumulation, 2,420,000 units. Waste from quality control rejections, 84,000 units. These rejected units, discarded for failing quality standards, exceeded Germany's total production of comparable electronics. America threw away more sophisticated technology and quality control than Germany produced successfully. Wilson's report documented production costs. Unit cost June 1944, $18.40. Unit cost March 1945, $16.90. Cost reduction through process improvement, $1.50 per unit, 8.2%. Cost reduction through volume production, 12 cents per unit. Total savings January through March 1945, $705,600. These savings exceeded Germany's total monthly military budget for V-weapon program. America saved more through efficiency improvements than Germany spent on entire weapons programs. April 15, 1945. British interrogation facility, Bad Nendorf, Germany. Weber provided supplemental testimony to Allied intelligence. His 32-page report detailed V-weapon program economics. Germany allocated 8% of military budget to V-weapons from June 1943 through March 1945. Total expenditure, approximately 430 million Reichsmarks. Production result, 30,214 V-1s, 1,400 V-2s. Cost per V-1, 12,400 Reichsmarks. Cost per V-2, 87,000 Reichsmarks. Total program cost including research, development, testing, facilities, and operations, 1,200 million Reichsmarks. Weber continued with Allied defensive costs. American proximity fuse program cost approximately $240 million from development through March 1945 production. At 4 Reichsmarks per dollar, 960 million Reichsmarks. American defensive program cost less than German offensive program. American program produced 14 million proximity fuses. German program produced 30,214 V-1s and 1,400 V-2s. American production per Reichsmark spent 14.58 proximity fuses. German production per Reichsmark spent 0.026 V-weapons. American production efficiency exceeded German efficiency by factor of 560. Allied interrogators asked about strategic effectiveness. Weber provided detailed analysis. V-1 program killed approximately 6,000 British civilians, injured 17,000. Property damage approximately 130 million pounds sterling. Strategic effect, minimal. British war production unaffected. British military operations unaffected. British morale damaged but not broken. American proximity fuse program destroyed 90% of V-1 launches. Killed 0 American civilians. Injured 0 American civilians. Caused 0 American property damage. Cost less than German offensive. Proved American technological and industrial superiority. Weber's testimony addressed production comparison. Single American factory produced more proximity fuses in 4 months than Germany produced V-1s in entire war. Eastman Kodak facility June 1944 through October 1944 production, 312,000 units. Total German V-1 production entire war, 30,214 units. Ratio, 10.3 to 1. Single American factory outproduced entire German V-weapon program by factor of 10. This comparison understates American advantage because they operated 17 such facilities simultaneously. Schneider provided tactical assessment April 18, 1945. V-1 program failed tactically, operationally, strategically. Tactical failure, 90% destruction rate. Operational failure, insufficient damage to military targets. Strategic failure, no effect on Allied war prosecution. The proximity fuse transformed anti-aircraft warfare. Before proximity fuses, flak required 3,400 rounds per kill. With proximity fuses, 42 rounds per kill. Efficiency improvement, 80–100%. Cost reduction, 98.7% per kill. American technology made German weapons obsolete before they became operational. May 8, 1945, Victory in Europe Day. American proximity fuse production ceased military priority designation. Facilities transitioned to reduced production schedule. Daily output decreased from 3,100 units to 800 units. Excess production capacity redirected to civilian electronics production. Workers maintained employment. Wages maintained. Facilities maintained. The transition from military to civilian production occurred in 3 weeks. Germany's transition from military production to nothing occurred in 3 days of total collapse. Final accounting compiled by Allied Intelligence, June 1945. American proximity fuse program total production, 22 million units. Combat deployment, 8 million units. Stockpile, 12 million units. Quality control rejection, 2 million units. Production cost, $384 million. Cost per unit average, $17.45. German V-weapon program total production, 31,614 weapons. Combat deployment, 31,414 weapons. Stockpile surrender, 200 weapons. Production cost, 1,400,000,000 Reichsmarks. Cost per weapon, 44,200 Reichsmarks. Effectiveness comparison. American proximity fuses destroyed 23,000 V-1s in anti-aircraft role, destroyed 4,200 aircraft in Pacific theater, destroyed 867 aircraft in European theater, enabled successful defense of hundreds of ships, contributed to air superiority in both theaters. Total enemy targets destroyed or damaged using proximity fuses, approximately 36,000. Cost per kill, $106.67. German V-weapons killed 6,000 civilians, destroyed minor infrastructure, achieved 0 strategic objectives. Cost per casualty caused, 233,300 Reichsmarks. Weber's final report, submitted June 15, 1945. The proximity fuse proved that industrial capacity defeats technological sophistication. Germany produced sophisticated weapons requiring sophisticated production. America produced adequate weapons requiring simple production. Sophisticated production produced thousands. Simple production produced millions. The mathematics were inevitable. Millions defeated thousands. Germany allocated maximum resources producing minimum weapons. America allocated minimum resources producing maximum weapons. Efficiency defeated effort. Abundance defeated scarcity. Democracy defeated dictatorship through superior production. Schneider's final observation, July 1945. I watched 1,472 V-1 launches. I documented 1,318 destructions. I witnessed Germany's most advanced weapons destroyed by American mass production. The lesson is permanent. Technological advantage without production capacity loses to production capacity with adequate technology. Germany designed excellent weapons. America manufactured adequate weapons in quantities that made excellence irrelevant. We brought precision to fight mass production. We lost. The final statistics remained archived in Allied intelligence files. 22 million American proximity fuses produced, 31,614 German V-weapons produced. Ratio, 696:1. Single American facility average production, 1,294,000 units. Entire German program production, 31,614 units. Ratio, 41:1. One American factory outproduced entire German program by factor of 41. America operated 17 such factories. The mathematics were absolute. Democratic mass production buried totalitarian craftsmanship under avalanche of materiel. What Oberst Heinrich Müller didn't know on May 17, 1944, what he never lived to understand, was that American industrial capacity would render German technological sophistication irrelevant within 8 weeks of V-1 program initiation. The proximity fuse destroyed his weapons, killed his program, proved his assumptions wrong, demonstrated that free workers outproduce slaves, that democracy outperforms dictatorship, that abundance defeats scarcity through mathematics too absolute for ideology to contest, too overwhelming for pride to deny, too permanent for history to forget. The numbers remained, 696 to 1. The lesson remained, never underestimate democracies at war.